Hey, it's Jag. Just a quick editor's note before you listen to today's podcast. I recorded it yesterday afternoon, that is Thursday, before the news of Donald Trump and his wife testing positive for COVID-19. So bear that in mind as you listen to today's show. Enjoy.
What's up? It's Andy Grammer with Jag.
Hi, this is Carly Rae Jepsen, and you're listening to Jag.
Hey, everybody, it's Joe Jonas hanging with Jag.
This is Heather Knox with the hottest Jag I've ever seen.
Ryan Seacrest with Jag.
It's B.O.B. checking in with my homie Jag. So much swag with my homie Jag.
It's the Jag Show podcast.
Welcome in. I am John Jag Gay. That was a hot mess inside a dumpster fire, inside a train wreck. That is how CNN's Jake Tapper described Tuesday night's presidential debate, and I think most of us would agree. The show that was Tuesday night's debate may have finally gotten us to the change that I have been crying for since at least 2016, and that is a mute button. If, in my radio days, I could manage to stop talking after 14 seconds when Katy Perry started singing, a person running for political office should be able to shut it after 2 full minutes. It sounds, as of this recording, that the Commission on Presidential Debates may finally give moderators that power. Now, nothing was accomplished on Tuesday night, and for any undecided voters that still want to cast a ballot on issues, they're no closer to an answer now than they were at the beginning of the week. If you give each candidate an opportunity to talk, you might actually learn something. 2020 might become, among many other things, the year of the mute button. Almost all of us have learned to use it on Zoom calls and the like, whether we need to cough, sneeze, drink, eat, etc. At least those with common courtesy do anyway. In a podcast, the mute button is extremely useful. For example, I recorded a podcast with the host and 4 panelists recently. The 2 things that made it flow very well were that the host called on each panelist individually, and that everyone muted their mic when not speaking. I had the speakers on 5 separate tracks, and the editing was very straightforward. Yesterday, I recorded a show with a client while my wife and I were dog sitting. There was running and barking and more happening upstairs. I muted my mic when I wasn't speaking, made the edit that much easier. Now, all things in moderation, of course. If you're having a lively conversation and a back and forth in a podcast, no need to mute yourself in that frequent back and forth. But if you're going long periods of time without speaking, just mute yourself. Your editor will thank you. Fascinating piece of news this week between the connection of plosives and the spread of COVID. Now, podcast editors often have to eliminate what we call plosives. Let me say that again. Plosives, or that little puff of air that comes out of your mouth with hard consonants like P and T. For a demo of this, just hold your palm in front of your mouth and say the word pizza. You'll feel that little puff of air. Well, those little puffs of air, or mini jet streams, can carry COVID-19 particles. That was covered last night here in Detroit by the local NBC affiliate WDIV Channel 4. I've linked to that article in the show notes. In other podcasting news this week, Spotify is testing polls for podcasts. Hosts can ask 1 question per show and have listeners weigh in. Apple has bought a property called Scout FM, which turns podcasts into radio stations. And interestingly enough, once they bought it out, they shut down Scout's apps on Apple and Android, possibly so they could leverage the technology in their own new versions of their iOS. Wondery, the production house that produced Dr. Death, Dirty John, and other big podcasts, might be up for sale for the low, low price of $200 million, according to Bloomberg. Podcast Movement, the biggest podcast convention in the space, of course, virtual, like everything else this year. It's going to run over 10 days here in October, and their virtual schedule is out. That is linked in the show notes. And locally, the Detroit Podcast Festival is going to run the weekend of October 16th through 18th. That'll do it for this week's version of the Jag Show podcast. Special episode next week to talk about something that is very important to me, very near and dear to my heart. Look for that next Friday. Until then, stay healthy, stay safe, and I will talk to you next week. Later.
Thanks for listening to the Jag Show podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe in Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. For help with your podcast, find Jag on social media at Jag in Detroit or on the web at jagindetroit.com.